Over the last 2 or 3 weeks, I got a lot of really good questions about all things spatial audio, and I haven't done a question and answer video for a while. So here we go. Your questions and comments and my hopefully helpful answers. Let's get started. The first question comes from user Peter88 Montreal, and Peter asks, I'm on Cubase and Nuendo on a PC. It seems like no company is releasing a plugin for me to listen to the Apple Spatial Binaural. Is there a technical reason, or maybe Apple wanting to keep this on macOS? Now, the answer to that question is yes to the first one and most likely yes to the second one. My understanding is that if a company wants to implement a plugin that uses Apple Spatial Binaural, they need a software development kit that currently only is available on macOS. And it is even a little bit more complicated than that because some of the features are actually not even available on an Intel platform. You actually need an Apple Silicon Mac in order to do that. So yes, there are technical reasons, and yes, most likely Apple is making sure that people only use it on Mac OS. Now, is this going to come to Windows anytime soon? I highly doubt it. So if you are waiting for that to be released on Windows or for anybody to develop a plugin on Windows, you probably have to wait for quite some time. My feeling is that unless somebody is forcing Apple to do that, this is not going to happen. Second question is more of a comment, and it comes from user Ness Liesel. I'm not quite sure if I pronounced it correctly. If not, I apologize. And this user makes the comment, every time I stop looking at the screen, Arnold Schwarzenegger starts speaking. Now, unsurprisingly, I do get that comment quite often, and I already talked about that in some of my previous question and answer videos. I think I talked about it in pretty much every one of those. And the reason we sound the same is simply because we come from the same area in Austria, so our pronunciation patterns are pretty much the same. But I tell you what, if this video gets more than 200 likes, and this is really a very low number, I'm going to end every one of my future videos with the famous Terminator phrase, I'll be back. So only 200 likes. This is actually fairly easy to achieve. You guys can do that. So hit the like and subscribe button. User Loyal QE, and I once again apologize in case I butchered your name, asks the following question. I want to listen to Dolby Atmos music or watch movies with Dolby Atmos on a PC with headphones. What is the feasible way to do this at the moment? Now, I'm mainly working with Macs these days, so my knowledge might be a little bit outdated. However, my understanding is that on Windows, object-oriented spatial audio is rendered within the operating system through the spatial audio settings. And in order to be able to render Dolby Atmos, you need to download the Dolby Access app from the Microsoft Store and install it. And I think it's even costing some money, so you actually need to purchase that. But once you have that, you can listen to everything that uses the spatial audio on Windows in binaural headphone mode. The only disadvantage is that you can't use head tracking, and I'm honestly not entirely sure if that's possible within Windows. There are a few workarounds that you could use, but none of them are in a way or easy enough that I would actually recommend them that you do those, because they require to route things around a little and use a couple of applications and then do some head tracking externally. So it seems like a lot of work for something that might not be that particularly useful. So once again, yes, you can do that on Windows, but it's not as convenient as on a Mac. Has its advantages, has its disadvantages, but it is what it is. User Killsen 3100 asks, I'm being able to use the Subway head tracker with Dolby Atmos renderer to mix. However, I have a quick question. Is there a way to monitor already released music in Dolby Atmos on Apple Music by using the Subway head tracker? Now, since you are commenting this on a video about Logic Pro and you are talking about using the Dolby Atmos renderer, I'm assuming that you are working with a Mac and using the Mac operating system. And on Macs, this is actually fairly easy to do. All you really need to do is you need to download an application that can render multi-channel audio in a binaural way with the Subway head tracker, and one of those applications is Virtuoso. Once again, I'm going to leave a link in the description below where I show you how to do that. It's actually very straightforward to do. So once again, on Apple, this is very easily possible. On Windows, it is a challenge. Before I continue, let me give a brief shout out to our newest awesome channel member, Ryan Olsen. Thank you so much for your support. I truly appreciate it. If you want to support this channel just like Ryan, you can join us either through YouTube or Patreon. There's also a free option on Patreon in case you just want to lurk around. But the easiest and most cost-effective way is to simply subscribe to my channel and press the like button on every video that I produce. And I now also publish on a second channel. And on the second channel, I post videos that don't quite fit on my main channel. Currently, those are mostly the videos about generative artificial intelligence. If you're interested in those type of topics, please also consider subscribing to my secondary channel. I have a link in the description below. And with that being said, let's return to our questions. User ES60Hz has a very interesting question that I actually wondered myself for quite some time, and the user asks, with every binaural plugin and every headphone, I noticed that I always hear the front stage behind my head, same like the backstage. I can never hear the soundstage in front of me, only on the left side, the right side and behind. Is this only me or is this a common phenomenon? Now, this is actually a fairly common phenomenon, and that has to do with the fact that the head-related transfer function that is used in those binaural rendering plugins is a standard head-related transfer function. And if your ears or your head don't really fit that particular function, then you might not hear it correctly. That might manifest itself in many different ways. It could be that you hear everything behind you. In my particular case, for example, I hear everything only in front of me. I never hear anything behind me, and that is unfortunately the case because my head does not really conform to a standard head. I actually have a very big head and my ears apparently don't fit as well. So the head-related transfer function that usually comes with those binaural renderers don't fit me. Now, the way to get around that would be to create your own head-related transfer function, but that is really complicated to do, and I have not yet found an easy way to actually create more personalized head-related transfer function. If you know a way to do that, let me know in the comment. I would really be interested to learn if there is an easy way to get a personalized head-related transfer function, but so far I have not really found one. Imasound XYZ has a similar question. I bought the license to the Sony 360 Reality Walk Mix Creator and I was testing it, and I must say that it sounds very strange. Just turn on the plugin and the audio changes noticeably. Definition is lost in general. Now, without knowing the specifics of what you mean by this sounds strange, I cannot be 100% certain, but I'm pretty sure that this is the same issue. The Walk Mix Creator uses a special head-related transfer function, and if your ear geometry or head geometry doesn't fit that particular head-related transfer function, everything sounds off, and this is most likely the case. Another guy called Smith, and those are always the bad ones, asks, or actually kind of comments, your English is awful. Well, there's just no pleasing people, right? Some people like my accent and find it quirky. Other people don't like it. Now, in Smith's defense, I have to say that this comment was made on a very old video, and back then I did not really script my videos. I usually now script my videos. This one is actually an exception. This one is just kind of off the cuffs. But if I script my videos, I also post subtitles, correct subtitles. And if you have trouble understanding me because my English is somehow off, turn on the subtitles. They are now available in English as well as in German, and that should help understanding me. Couple of questions with respect to my recent video about the Mini DSP Flex, and the first question comes from AndRobbie4550. Once again, sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly. And the user comments, modern monitors also have room correction built in. And that is actually true. Now, I've actually used monitors with built-in room correction myself previously, and the ones that I used were the iLoud MTMs from IK Multimedia. They use the ARC system. The problem that I have though is that they never kind of sounded right. So I never got the correct room impression. It was only the Dirac system with the Mini DSP Flex that was the first that really created a correct room correction. But once again, as I said in my video, your mileage may vary. There might be certain room corrections that work better for you. For me personally, the one that really worked was the Dirac system, and everything else that I tried really didn't match up. Now, the user DocMyEU had a similar comment, and he or she writes, I had the same ADAM T7V plus Sub 10 combo and was using Sonarworks software for room correction, but everything changed to much better when I purchased the Genelec A341As with an RME interface. Now, the Genelecs are some of these speakers that actually have a built-in room correction, and my understanding is that it works really, really well. There's also another thing that I found interesting about Genelec. They have an oral ID system that allows you to actually have a personalized head-related transfer function. I just found it to be a little bit complicated to set up and also a little bit expensive, to be perfectly honest. But it appears to me that Genelec is really trying to do the best they can in order to get the quality of the sound as good as they can. So I have no doubt that the Genelecs are a good option. They're just a little bit expensive. User Peter Pepper 4837 has a similar comment, and here she writes, RME now also includes room correction in Total Mix with the newer interfaces. Now this is actually true. Many producers of audio interfaces are now coming out with models that have room correction built in, and this is actually a really interesting option because you have everything in one device, and that is very convenient. So if you are looking to add room correction to the setup, see if there are any interfaces that might fit the bill, and that might actually be a very good option to go. User Mr. Life was the one that asked me if I could talk from above when I'm reviewing the Ambisonics microphones, and I ended up doing that in my most recent Ambisonics review video. And Mr. Life then commented, "Thank you for accommodating my request and speaking into the microphone from above. It occurs to me that if you decide to branch out with an ASMR channel, you could use the sound coming from above to implement an SM channel." Stop posting nonsense. Get down on the keyboard and press the like button. Do it already. This is about as as I can get. So that's probably not going to be a viable career choice. User JRG Roberts had a very interesting comment, and here she writes, moving speakers will not affect the room modes. It might alter the excitation of them. And that comment was made in response to something that I said in my video about the Mini DSP Flex, where I talked about that I got the room correction pretty much settled with a couple of exceptions where I had dips in the frequency response, and these dips are most likely due to the fact that there are room modes, and that in order to get rid of them, I would have to move the speakers, and I don't want to do that because I like the way this looks. Now, what I really meant was really that I would have to move the listener position, so my position, and in order to move my position out of the room mode, I would have to move the speakers. So obviously the speakers don't affect the room modes, but essentially where I sit in the room makes a difference whether or not I'm affected by those room modes. This is really what I was mentioning, and thanks for that comment because that clarifies a little what I was talking about. And one final question comes from BNB Production 5946 to the same Mini DSP Flex video. Could this hypothetically work to tune an analog setup in your room as well? Or does the microphone through the calibration process need to be done through the same interface as is outputting to the speakers? Now this is actually an excellent point because the Mini DSP Flex is actually meant to be used in an analog setup, and the microphone that you're using is actually not really a microphone that goes through the interface. It's a microphone that you have to connect to your computer via USB. But yes, this is actually designed for that particular purpose. It's actually not really meant to be used in a music production environment, or at least it's not designed for that purpose. It's really designed to be used in a traditional listening environment with some analog setup. This is all for today. Thanks again for watching my videos and for making it that far. If you want me to end my future videos with the famous Terminator phrase, don't forget to press the like button. If you reach 200 likes, and this is not a hard thing to reach, so you should be able to do that, I'm going to use the Terminator phrase in the future. But for now, with that being said, see you all at the next video.